Tonight, the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops has called out President William Ruto's administration for what they term a deeply entrenched culture of lies, corruption, unfulfilled promises, and misplaced priorities.
Despite the kindness we are experiencing, there is a lot of anxiety, and most people are losing trust in the government.
This culture of lies, unkept promises, and misplaced priorities is unacceptable and needs to be dealt with.
Who is abducting these people? And is the government unable to stop these abductions and killings?
Yes, things are not well for the Kenya Kwanza government. Each and every day that passes, the structures that build a core foundation of the Kenya Kwanza government are forsaking it. It started by the pastors coming out to call out William Ruto's administration. Now, yesterday, the Catholic bishops in all archdioceses came out with a written statement condemning the Kenya Kwanza regime. They called out the William Ruto's administration for manipulating Kenyans, for continuing to lie to Kenyans, for wanting to extend term limits, for failing the nation. Trust me, even if you are ardent supporter of William Ruto, as I do, he has made a lot of mistakes. He has failed to deliver Kenya. Even after bringing the opposition on board, he has failed to deliver. I did a video previously telling you on why I think every president who brings in the opposition in government, he has failed. Because if you deliver for your people, the people will stand for you. Even if the opposition comes out to fight you, they will stand for you. That's why I'll keep on giving props to Uhuru Kenyatta. Even when he brought in Raila Amolo Odinga, it was in his second term when he wanted succession politics. But he didn't bring Raila Amolo Odinga to government to see that he could deliver. So in this episode, I've come to talk about the effects of the statements which were made by the Catholics, bishops, what it means for our politics, and most importantly, the study materials we can learn from the politics of our nation. But before I do this, I want to let you know that if you are new to this channel, please subscribe. If geopolitics and economics is what you want, this will be definitely the right channel for you to subscribe to. So, first of all, yesterday the Catholic bishops came out with a statement which called out the Kenya Kwanza regime. To show you the effect of this statement, every arm of government responded. The majority leader, the government spokesperson, power centers of the Kenya Kwanza regime, because they show that the foundation on which their government sat is deteriorating. In the lead-up of the 2022 general election, when Ruto was being elected into the presidency, he used the church as a pillar to further his campaign. In fact, the church did a lot of mobilization for William Ruto, because normally churches have following. The AICK church has almost 1 million followers. Tapping into those power centers, it gives you a platform to sell your agenda, which by the Raila didn't utilize, because in the lead-up of the 2022 general election, Ido Odinga made some assessments, and the Catholic Church and pastors never took it lightly. It's not the first time that pastors, bishops are coming out to call out the Kenya Kwanza regime. It shows that there is something bigger boiling. Before I proceed, I want to play you a tape when the Catholic Church was calling out William Ruto. And it's going to form a basis of our discussion to show you how William Ruto's election in 2027 is going to be hard. Because you cannot fight the pillars which your regimes, which your government sits on, and you think you may be elected in the near future. He fought the Mount Kenya. The Mount Kenya voted for him almost 47%. Now the Mount Kenya, even if you hold an election right now, they cannot vote for him. Now the church is taking him on, yet it was a basis upon which he was elected. Let me first play with the tape when William Ruto was calling out, when the Catholic bishops were calling out William Ruto. Here is the tape.
Tonight, the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops has called out President William Ruto's administration for what they term a deeply entrenched culture of lies, corruption, unfulfilled promises, and misplaced priorities. Led by their chair, Archbishop Maurice Muhatia of Kisumu, the bishops have accused the political class of turning a deaf ear to key concerns raised by Kenyans, among them overtaxation and unemployment, disturbing gaps in the implementation of CBC education system, and the transition from the NHIF to the Social Health Authority. Safin Acheng Oma reports.
In their latest assessment of the state of affairs in the country, the Kenyan Conference of Catholic Bishops has accused President William Ruto's administration of condoning a culture of lies, empty promises, and misplaced priorities.
We have made clear statements many times in the recent past with very little response from the government. Despite the kindness we are experiencing, there is a lot of anxiety, and most people are losing trust in the government.
We recall the pertinent and unresolved issues we have raised recently with the government over taxation of Kenyans, the hiking of the missionary work permits, youth and unemployment, regulations of the education system, especially the CBC and university loan scheme. This culture of lies, unkept promises, and misplaced priorities is unacceptable and needs to be dealt with.
The clergy have criticized.
Those are the bishops calling out Ruto. So it cannot be taken lightly that the bishops are calling out a regime. Remember, Kenya is almost 80-90% Christians, and Catholics make a big chunk. If all archdioceses from Kisumu, from Eldoret, from Central, from Ukambani come out to call the regime, remember these are the executive of the church. When they pronounce on something, that statement will be taken down to smaller churches. Okay? And remember, William Ruto stood on the church. William Ruto used a Bible to go to State House. I normally tell people that to whom much is given, much is expected. The Catholic Church must be taken along. You cannot abandon the church when you use them to get to power. It cannot be. Okay? Maybe a person like Raila Odinga would have the audacity to not take on the church because he didn't use that platform. William Ruto used it. Okay? And many of the statements they made, they are true. A lot of unemployment is there. Abductions are on the rise. Unlowness. Unpriority things are put on table, like they impeached the Gachagua. Among all the things which are needed in the country, you bring the MP motion, press it through the throats of leaders and Kenyans. Yet there is no development agenda which has ever passed through that limited time. So William Ruto should be scared that the foundation on which he attended the presidency is slipping away. Okay? It is slipping away. Let's continue with the video.
Politicians for advancing politics of self-interest and political wrangles which risk balkanizing the country.
The political wrangles in the government have generated unwanted tensions and deepened divisions among our people.
It is baffling that a bill proposing an extension of the 5-year term to 7 years is being considered, and apparently there are plans to rush it through the legislative system. We need to critically scrutinize this political move.
The bishops have accused the government of reneging on its promise to clear arrears amounting to billions owed to faith-based hospitals and the National Hospital Insurance Fund, even as they poked holes on the newly established Social Health Authority.
We are appealing to the government to move with speed and reimburse the money spent and which are due from NHIF and now SHIF or whichever case may be. The hospitals are crippled. they cannot serve our people, especially the most needy, because of this serious anomaly.
The bishops expressed their displeasure with the seeming laxity in the war against graft and addressing reported abductions, disappearances, and killings of Kenyans.
Who is abducting these people? And is the government unable to stop these abductions and killings?
In the meantime, they are calling on Kenyans to unite in prayer during these precarious times. Safin Acheng Oma, citizen.
Those are the bishops. I realized that they pointed out very many issues, and they are all true. You know, some people, even if you don't want the Catholic Church, even in the history, religious institutions have fought for democracy. Even in America, during racism, the Catholic Church did a lot of things. Many people don't know that Martin Luther King was a Catholic, a bishop. Malcolm X was a Muslim, by the way, an evangelist in Islam. Okay, so the Catholic Church around the world has participated in the liberation, in the fighting for democracy. Patrice Lumumba suffered the same. So the Catholic Church cannot be taken lightly. They are strong. They have numbers. They can influence a lot of things. They have structures because it is an institution. That's why William Ruto is so scared. The regime replied. In fact, to show you that the statement checked the Kenya Kwanza regime, threatened their regime. The majority leader Kimani Ichung'wah came out with a tweet saying, "Dear Catholic bishops, let's all be honest. If you have any information on corrupt legislators, please furnish info to investigate agencies or just name them and shame them. On this Cheragay bill that died in the Senate for lack of support, how does a dead private member bill find its own new statement? Otherwise, my lord bishops, the drafter of these statements portraying you either as liars or politically partisan. People ceased thing to play to a political gallery." That is Kimani Ichung'wah, the majority leader. In fact, he is saying that the bill to extend the presidential term died in the Senate. But we all know how this government functions. Kimani Ichung'wah is the one who first came out to say that there is no impeachment motion on Rigathi Gachagua. It was brought on the floor of Parliament. We cannot trust politicians. They normally bring out things in decoy, but they end up on the floor. They are masters of double speak. So at least the Catholic Church, I thank them for coming out to hold them accountable, especially when we don't have the credible position. Rather, Moriding is conflicted. Kalonzo Musyoka doesn't have the tenacity, he's fighting hard. So we cannot trust the majority leader. Among the 10 issues they raised, the majority leader only talked about the term limit. Isn't there abductions? Isn't there corruption in government, even if the Catholic bishops don't have evidence? Isn't there massive unemployment? Okay. You clearly see that the government was shaken. To show you further that the government was threatened, in a tweet which was made by Oscar Sudi. In fact, I believe that this tweet was made by William Ruto and forwarded to Oscar Sudi because Oscar Sudi doesn't have the capability of writing a tweet. I'm just going to read you. He came out to say, "It is this dumbfounding to see Archbishop Anthony Muheria preaching the gospel of on one hand and fanning tribalism on the other hand. Muheria lacks moral authority to criticize the current regime because he is akin to double speak. The cleric is on record for backing the past regime even when it was clear it had failed Kenyans and must be bold enough to steer away from tribal politics." That is Oscar Sudi. Oscar Sudi is calling out Bishop Muheria because he's from Central Kenya. Because in the lead for 2027 election, we are seeing the Central Kenya mounting an opposition for William Ruto. Okay? Because of not standing with them, because of chasing Gachagua. So he's selectively calling out Muheria because he's from Mountain Kenya. But they raised the pertinent issues. That's the truth. To show you also, the minority whip, I think the majority whip in the Senate, Aaron Chariot, also came out with a statement. You clearly see that these people were touched on the right nerves. Every center of power came out to communicate. The government spokesperson came out to communicate. Aaron Chariot also said the bill the Catholic bishops are referring to was rejected by the Senate Justice Committee a long time ago. It died before they seeing the light of the day. A simple Google search would have helped them establish that NHIF owned hospital 30 billion plus before September 2022. The debt burden has been reduced significantly. Last week alone, shilling 800 million was paid specifically to faith-based hospitals. The Catholic bishops should have asked for basic info from Ministry of Health before misleading the public on amounts owed by their hospital. Then and now, that was purely political statements. I'm struggling to recall the last time the Catholic bishops issued such a scathing personal attack on the two former presidents who were incidentally Catholics. So you clearly see all centers of power pointing out one thing. NHIF, all are not coming out to talk about unemployment, which was raised by the bishops, are not coming out to talk about the abductions, are not coming out to talk about priorities which are not development to our nation. They are pointing at one thing. So it is not a good sign for William Ruto's regime when they see that their presidency is being attacked, yet the Catholic Church made a foundation for them to be in the presidency. So it is time for William Ruto to smell the coffee, to see that in the near future he may face it rough. The Catholic Church can have sway in a country, and not only Kenya, but in very many jurisdictions. Of course, that's my opinion. Drop me a comment by commenting about this. Thank you very much for listening in. If this is your first time on this YouTube channel, employee would subscribe, like, and comment so that I can be motivated to do more of such videos. I'll see you on another one. Peace.